Hello, Patrick.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, Patrick, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, so obviously I'm ready to be secretary for this session. Um, do you know if, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, Everett, right?
Mhm.
Is planning on the afternoon, or should I plan on that as well?
I believe we were planning to have him come back in the afternoon if you can just handle this morning.
Okay. And what time do you anticipate the session ending and that one beginning?
So
Approximately.
approximately the plan is to break for lunch at I think 1:30 or 1:45 Eastern, 1:30 I believe, give or take, and at that point we'll be out for a little while and then we'll come back together about 2:45.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Patrick.
Hey, good morning. Glad you could join us.
I am so
Oh,
sorry about,
yeah,
I didn't even have anybody know what. My sister was supposed to come up and watch the kids.
Mhm.
And there was another COVID scare. So she didn't. And then my father said, bring the boy over. I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the schedule. It's an hour drive, but, I can, drop him off. I still have, no, my dad said, where the key to the house is.
Right.
He just kept me waiting there all evening, so it's, but I'm here today. Sorry. And also my parents are afraid of they're not Catholic.
Mhm.
So I have one, but that's better than a 3. So.
Well, I've got a 2-year-old running riot behind me right now. I'm waiting for my mom to come over. So,
we had the most perfect little chocolate covered kid. He was just this easy, delightful child. He turned 3 last week, and some little switch popped on where he realized, he doesn't necessarily have to listen. And I mean, really, it was like an overnight thing.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden we went from, perfect, easy, manageable, everything else to just, there's this like, I'm afraid that this is what my mother cursed me with, a child just like me. I'm afraid that is now coming true. So, but anyway, sorry I missed last night, but I'm here today.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of the stuff we did last night was pretty uncontroversial. We kind of just wanted to get everybody's feet wet. So the real stuff starts today.
Oh, see, I thought when I looked at the schedule, it looked like it was just like introductory speeches and things like that. I didn't think that there was any real business going down yet. And then I saw the recap and I was like,
yeah. Yeah, but it wasn't too much. We did a couple of motions and we did the nominations for NC, but all the voting is today. So.
Okay.
So it looks to me like it's 10:30, but people are still getting added. I only see 20 participants, so I'd like to just hold off on this for.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Matthew, are you Christy's alternate today? I know there was one day that she said she was going to be late. You can tell me in the chat.
Yeah, Matt Barco is.
Okay, all right. So let me go ahead and promote him. I forgot that he wasn't just spectating.
Is Michael Beard here as an alternate today?
I have not seen him yet.
Well, you promoted him, so.
Oh. Michael, are you someone's alternate? I mean.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you can. You're welcome to sit in, but I'm going to move you back to the peanut gallery then.
It's probably not bad to have him on as an NC candidate in case someone has questions for him during discussion.
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, any delegate can yield their time to an NC candidate if we want to have someone speak. I don't know if any of the others are going to be here, but I mean, it doesn't cost anything to have him on as a panelist for that matter. So. Just we'll keep the speaking to the delegates unless they yield their time. All right. I'm still waiting on a few people. Probably getting close to everybody.
So Dominic, do you want to go ahead and call the rolls? Happily. All right, and then we can figure out who's not here. Yep. Patrick Harris.
I'm here.
Present. Albert Thompson.
Present.
Desmond Silveira. Not here yet. Esther Nickel. Skylar.
Sorry, I'm here.
Great. Bonnie Callis. Christopher Zender.
Actually, Bonnie and Christopher are both here. I just have to promote them to panelists.
Got it. Thank you. David Bovee.
Here.
Jay Tyler Martin.
Here. Sorry.
Raynard Phillips. Tai Chi Kuo.
Present but uncaffeinated.
Tony Guidotti.
Here.
William M. Campbell.
Present.
Christy Yao.
Hereus.
Dan Garrett.
Did you get that
Present.
Matthew's here as Christie's alternate?
What's Matthew's last name?
Bartko.
Bartko.
Thank you. Dan Garrett is here. Luke Tierney.
I see Alan is present.
Correct.
I also think Christy just joined us, actually.
Am I done already?
I don't know. Christy, is he done already?
Important roll call vote.
Christy, you muted.
Oh, I was just saying I skedaddled. I was being a good little distributist and volunteering at my local co-op. But as soon as my replacement got there, I skedaddled because, you know, I care. Despite popular thought, I actually care.
Demote me, Patrick. Demote me.
Thank you, Matthew.
Okay. Well, thank you, Matthew, for stepping up for Christy while she was being a good distributist.
Just to clarify, Alan Mickle is alternate for Luke Tierney. Is that correct?
Correct.
Matthew Bosley.
Yes, I am here.
Monica Solar.
Here.
James Bowl. Sean. How do you pronounce your last name, Sean? Domenicis?
Demensic.
Not even close. Great, thank you.
It's a common mistake. I always say the men are sick. Demensic.
Zebicelli?
Here.
Albert, sorry, I already got Albert. Bryce is here. Carter McNeese.
Present.
Eric Schenkel.
Here.
Sarah Bork.
Here.
Joshua Perkins.
Present.
Brian Talbot.
Here.
Jordan Andlevek. Kathleen Lang.
Here.
Ryan Governell. Sammy Omey.
Present.
Jacqueline Abernathy.
Here.
Jeff Colbreth.
Here.
Dealing
Good
with
morning.
technical difficulties, but should be here in a minute. Oh, there he is. Hi, Jeff.
Good morning, everybody.
Jeffrey Stewart.
Hi, Dominic.
Hello. I guess he said he would be here, but I guess I can fill in if you no one objects. All right. Chair, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 absent with no replacement. Those are Desmond Silveira, unless he's come in, Esther Nickel, Raynard Phillips.
I'm here. Esther's here.
Right. Raynard Phillips, James Bull, and Jordan Andlebeck.
Reynard is here.
Yeah, Jordan is also here. I just promoted him.
Ray.
Okay. So I saw Ray in the attendees, and I didn't realize that was Reynard, so I'm going to promote him too.
You got me right, Desmond Silvera.
The only delegate that is unaccounted for and does not have an alternate is James Bull currently.
All right. Great. So as you might recall, we were in the middle of nominations, which is why I'm standing in as chair today until such times Patrick is not involved in national committee races. But I'd like to open us up with a prayer, if that's okay. Dear Father, thank you for all the blessings that you've given to us. The fact that we are here today, that we have had food to eat today, that we've had air to breathe. Thank you for our families and our friends and all the other blessings. Lord, we're gathered here today in hopes of making a better country in our future. And I'd ask that you give us all wisdom, you give us all guidance, that you give us all the humility to seek what it is your will and not our own personal ambitions. And I ask all of these things in the name of your Son and our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. So the first thing that we have to do is, according to Robert's rules, we're supposed to read out yesterday's minutes, unless somebody wants to dispense with that.
I move to dispense with the reading of the prior day's minutes.
I will second that. All in favor of this? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? All right, so we're going to dispense with the minutes. So last night we had gone through the round of nominations, and those are closed. Does the secretary have a list of the people who were nominated?
I do.
All right, would you mind reading those back for us?
No. Patrick Harris, Albert Thompson, Carter McNeese, Bonnie Callis, Dane Garrett, Lois, Shane Hoffman, Michael Beard, Kevin Maurer, Tony Guidotti, Sean Champagne, and Charlie Jenkins.
All right. Thank you. So now we'll go into a time of a 10-minute period of discussions. So if you would like to raise your hand, if you would like to speak on behalf of some candidate. I recognize Kathleen.
Point of information.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Carter.
I know we did this yesterday, but can you just run through, for those of us who haven't done this before, run through real quick how the voting is going to be done as we move from seat to seat, person to person?
Yeah, that's great, especially since I know that we have some people here like Jacqueline and Sean who were not here yesterday. So we have 6 seats to fill on the National Committee. 4 seats will be for a 2-year term, 1 seat for a 1-year term. these are just seats on the National Committee. They are not specific roles.
Two seats for 1-year term.
What did I say? Yeah, 2 seats for a 1-year term. I'm not sure what I said, but oh, sorry. I should mention, for the sake of not committing felonies, you are all being recorded, and by continuing to be here, I will take that as consent to you being recorded. Or, okay. So each person will be elected, or each seat will be elected via a single winner election. To win that election, a candidate has to get a majority of the votes. So obviously, with 13 candidates or 12 candidates, it's very likely that we will have some times when people don't, when no one gets a majority of the votes. In that case, so we'll have a first round of voting, and we'll vote. If nobody gets a majority, then we'll move into a second round of voting, and we'll vote. If at that point nobody has received a majority of votes, then we'll start eliminating people. Anyone, you can only vote for somebody who's been nominated, and after the second round, in any subsequent rounds, anybody who receives no votes, or and the person who has received the fewest number of votes will be eliminated from being considered nominated. And so they will not be available to vote for them in the next round. And we'll just keep eliminating people and having votes again until somebody gets a majority. After somebody is elected for that seat, then we will have a new period of nominations, which I expect will look something like Dane making a motion to renominate everybody from the last, that was nominated for the last election. So, so yes, Monica, I see Monica's question in the chat. They can be renominated for the next seat, and likely will be. Does anybody have any questions about how this process is going to work? I should also note that in the event that there is a tie for the person with fewest votes, that our rules of order stipulate that we will vote to determine who's eliminated. And so in the interest of not having people having vote-offs to eliminate people with one candidate, I would strongly suggest that if you're the only person voting for a candidate in round 1, that you move to another candidate for round 2. Okay, so again, any questions? All right, seeing none, Kathleen, you have the floor.
I would like to speak on behalf of Tony Godotti. He was one of the early organizers of the chapter in Washington State, and he was an organized and enthusiastic leader, and also worked well with the team in delegating tasks. And anyway, I think that he will be a great addition to the National Committee from my experience with him on a state committee.
All right, thank you, Kathleen. Would anybody else like to speak?
Point of information.
Yes, Desmond.
Are we going to have these opportunities to speak between rounds, or is this all up front?
Yeah, but I believe that discussion rounds are, actually, I don't think we said one way or another in the rules of order.
Yeah, I guess I would actually prefer that we just have a first vote now and see what happens, and then have discussion after that. That were, you know, my preference. But
go ahead, Kat. Thank you, Skylar. Go ahead, Kathleen. What?
I was going to say just the opposite of what Skylar said. Before I start voting, I would like to hear if other, like me, other people here have had experience with these candidates and would recommend them.
All right, Monica, you were raising your hand physically.
Yeah, I once again lost the raise hand button on the side. I think it's really important to have a possible conversation in between, especially as the field gets narrower. In addition, we may get someone new on that list. I know there's someone I would like to nominate that's not on the list for the second round, so I think we need that opportunity. We may not take it, but I think we need it between each round to have a short period of discussion, pro and con.
You said between each round or between each seat?
Between each seat, not between each round. Sorry about that. Definitely not between each round.
Yeah. So the question is whether we should have discussions between each round, not between each seat. So I'm going to move to discuss this point in a whole, which is what you do when you want to discuss something that's not a motion. Is there a second to that?
Seconded.
Is there any objection to discussing this in a committee as the whole?
Just as a point of order on that, just looking at the rules committee report, if each seat, if the essentially if the motion is to have an election for an individual seat, then by the rules, section 1.2 subpoint D, then if it's a separate motion for each seat, then there is 10 minutes of discussion for each motion.
Right. So I know that there's 10 minutes before each seat, but the question is whether there's 10 minutes before each election for the seat, I guess, or each round of voting for the seat.
I may have asked the question improperly. What I meant was between each seat. Sorry.
Oh, yes, definitely between each seat. There will be a, all right. Go ahead, Tai Chi. Actually, Jacqueline is asking where the raise hand button is. So if you go down at the bottom of the Zoom screen, there should be a participants box. If you click it and open it at the bottom of the participants box, there should be a raise hand button next to a button that says mute me. Okay, go ahead, Tai.
So if we're speaking on behalf of candidates, I'd like to speak on behalf of our very own Patrick Harris, who has, who's gone above and beyond in terms of presiding over two, so not just one, but two conventions, including this one, as well as being a tremendous secretary this year. We do have some pretty important tasks in flight, not that he needs to continue on as secretary, but I believe that, but he was deeply engaged with those activities. So specifically with ballot access and ballot access consulting. So losing him would be, on the national committee would be something that would, I think, impact the party negatively. But I also just do want to say I enjoyed working with him tremendously these past 2 years, and I fully support his re-election.
Point of order.
Go ahead, Josh.
Yes, I believe you made a motion to consider that question as a committee of the whole, and it was seconded, but we never actually moved on that.
That is in order at this time. Yes, so we should do that. Matthew Bartko has a point of order that about their campaign meeting. And I think Matthew, that yes, it is true. Well, I'll let Patrick deal with that. All right, so so since the motion has been seconded, I can't just withdraw it, but it sounds like we came to a decision on that. So I'm just going to do a quick voice vote if there's no objections. Right. All those in favor of moving to a committee of the whole to discuss discussions between seats? All opposed?
I'm sorry. Point of
Nay.
information. I'm not.
Sorry.
Can you restate the question again? It was different than I thought.
Yeah, sorry. So the question is whether we should move to a committee of the whole to discuss whether to have discussions between between seats or between rounds of elections. Right.
Thank you. Nay.
Right. So all opposed?
Nay.
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 Nay. Anyone in favor? Okay. So that motion fails. Thank you, Josh, for keeping us in order. All right. So Tai Chi, you still have your hand raised.
Not anymore.
All right. Go ahead, Monica.
I didn't think I had my hand raised. Sorry. It's lowered.
All right. Zebulon, you have the floor.
Yes, I also would like to speak on behalf of Patrick. He's been a great NC member and would be very valuable to have on the NC again. And I would like to suggest that I think the likelihood that he's going to win a seat, his popularity among the delegates and the party as a whole, that we ought to just have this first round so that Patrick can resume his role as the chair of the convention after we have this first round vote.
Is that an official move? Because I could second that.
I don't think that we can do that.
I will move to end discussion and bring it to a vote.
I second it.
Is there any opposition to ending the discussion? All right, then by unanimous consent, debate is closed and we can move to elections. So I have pasted the link into the chat. Rather than reading off all 12 names.
Can someone check to see if I did vote for Patrick, because it's a little confusing with this with so many options.
You did.
Great.
Dominic, there's only one person. missing, absent right now?
That's correct.
Right. We're still waiting on votes from 4 people. If all right, I'm going to go ahead and close this. Patrick Harris is elected unanimously. And retake his seat or his station as chair.
Okay, thank you, Bryce, and thanks to everybody for the vote of confidence. So we now will move on to the second seat for a 2-year term on the National Committee. I believe if anyone would like to make any additional nominations at this time, you can move that, or is it already allowed in the rules?
We are, so the next thing would be to move into a time of nominations.
Okay.
And I will move to renominate everyone.
Second, William.
Okay, so we have all of the other candidates have been renominated, and we have a second. Are there any other nominations that were not on the previous list?
Monica has one.
Yeah, go ahead, Monica.
Yeah, I would like to, I don't think he's on the previous list. I would like to nominate Joshua Perkins.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second if you will accept it.
I'll accept it. Sure.
Okay, so we have an additional nomination. Jacqueline, you have the floor.
Made the nomination in the second. Sorry, I didn't.
Oh, sorry. That was Monica made the nomination, and the second was Bryce.
Thank you.
Okay, Jacqueline, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Question is, I'm assuming that anybody we nominate would need to be present, right, to affirm that they're okay with it?
If you know that they're okay with it, then you should, and you can go ahead with it. If not, I would prefer that if you don't know that they're okay with it and they're not here, I think you should contact them and make sure they're okay with it.
Oh, I know that they're okay with it. I just didn't know what the official rules were. I'd like for us to consider again Mary Kelleher Fitz.
Okay.
I second that nomination, Joshua.
Okay, so we have another nomination for Mary Keller Fitz. So we'll add that to the list of candidates under consideration. Monica, your hand.
Does she need a second?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Skylar.
Does Mary need a second?
Was there a second? I believe there. Yeah, Joshua seconded that motion, right?
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's an additional nomination we have. Do we have any further nominations for the second seat on the National Committee? Okay. If not, then we will move to. Yeah, Bryce, go
ahead. I was just raising my hand in preparation for the discussion time.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. If not, then we'll go to a period of discussion, and I'll start with Bryce.
So one of the positions, so as I mentioned before, that we don't get to elect people to specific seats, and nowhere is this more of a problem than in the area of treasurer. It's hard to find a treasurer. You know, you have to have a certain set of skills to be treasurer. You know, I personally lack the attention to detail to be treasurer. I would not be a good treasurer. I think Tai Chi-Kuo has been a fantastic treasurer. The only one of these candidates before us that has volunteered to serve as treasurer is Tony Godotti. And I've had experience working with Tony on the bylaws committee. I enjoyed working with him as a delegate at last year's convention and serving on the rules committee, both of those conventions. I think he would be a great choice for the national committee. And as I mentioned, he's the only one who is able, who is eager to be on the national committee and treasurer. I suppose Kevin Maurer has also showed a willingness to be treasurer, but Kevin is wanting to stay and build up Utah, unless we really want him. So I yield the balance of my time.
Okay, Monica, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, this time I did. I actually wanted to second what Bryce said, and similar to what Zeb said when we voted for you, Patrick, I think this is a key position to fill. And after this, we have lots of good people to pick from. But I think it's really important for Tony to be in this seat because I know how critical treasurer is. So I speak in favor of him. I yield my time.
Okay, anyone else? Zeb, go ahead.
On the question of treasurer, and I do support Tony for the national committee, but for what it's worth, I am willing to resume the role of treasurer if the national committee members would want me to do that. So you don't have to vote for Tony just so that we have a treasurer, although I think he's a good candidate on the merits otherwise.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, well, if no one further wants to jump in, then we can go ahead and bring discussion to a close and get the link up for the second national committee seat.
I accidentally sent the link to only one person instead of everyone. So now everyone should have the link.
Okay, well, we're still waiting on a few of you to vote. I think we have maybe 5 or 6 outstanding votes, but we do have a clear majority in favor of Tony Guidotti for the second 2-year seat on the National Committee. So congratulations, Tony. We can leave that open for a minute if anyone wants to finish voting, if they haven't already. I think another one just came in. But that question has been decided, so we can go ahead and move on to the third seat. We will start with a period of nomination.
Point of information, Patrick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we need to remove each round or for each seat to renominate everyone?
Yeah, I think that's what we. I think that the rules don't automatically carry them over, so someone just has to move to renominate the previous nominees, and someone has to second it, which is a little annoying, but it'll just take a minute.
All right, then I would like to move that all those nominated for the last seat be carried over to this.
I second the nomination.
Okay, so William Campbell moves to renominate all the previous nominees. Jacqueline seconds. Do we have any additional nominees for the third seat that have not already been named?
So it looks like Dominic has a point of order.
Yeah, go ahead, Dominic.
I believe the rules say that if they were nominated, their nominations do carry over. The case where it doesn't is when they are eliminated after the second round of voting. So if any candidates are eliminated after a second round of voting, they would need to be.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, so just to clarify on that, that's only within the election for a seat. So it carries over from round to round of voting. But once we start an election for a new seat, they don't carry over to that.
Okay, yes, that's a good point. So does everyone know what we're talking about when we're talking about different rounds of voting as opposed to the different seats? So if a candidate, Bryce talked about this earlier, but if a candidate doesn't get a majority, then we have to keep voting. And that's what we're talking about for the different rounds. So, you can have multiple rounds of voting for the same seat. Now, we haven't done that yet because I got a majority in the first round and Tony got a majority in the second round. But later on, we're likely to have multiple rounds of voting. And if that's the case, then if someone gets eliminated, you can renominate them later, but people have to, have to allow that. So with that in mind, we have renominated all of the previous nominees for the third round of vote, or not the third round, the third seat on the National Committee. Are there any additional nominees who we don't already have? Okay, if there are not, then we'll be voting on all the same people, minus Tony. But first, I'd like to open the floor for discussion. Yeah, Joshua?
A point of information, who are the current national members who will be continuing their terms?
Sorry, Joshua, your connection was pretty bad there. Can you repeat that?
Sorry about that. Who are the current national committee members who are not up for re-election and are still on the national committee?
Oh, okay, yes. So the question is, which national committee members are not up for re-election and are remaining on the committee? That would be Zeb, Christy, and well, it would have been Alex, but he resigned. There's another. Skylar. Right. Thank you, Skylar. Sorry, I just couldn't remember off the top of my head. Okay, yeah. So Zeb, Christy, and Skylar are remaining on the committee regardless of what we do today. Okay, Zeb?
I wanted to speak in favor of Dane. I have been interacting and working with Dane since I joined the party in 2016. And he's been a tireless organizer and defender for the party all the way since back then. He's played a crucial role in helping the party keep its identity and its values, and has also done a lot to just bring people in and support activity for new members or people who are kind of lost and not knowing what to do next. His insight and ability to evaluate the political situation and make good decisions and predict kind of outcomes and plan ahead for them has been proven. And he also happens to know a lot about politics and like the nitty-gritty stuff like election law in various areas and states, histories of third parties, and procedures like committee procedures and stuff. That's been very valuable on the different smaller committees and organizations he's been a part of within the party. So I really want to have Dane join the National Committee, and I think everybody should support him.
Okay, thank you, Zeb. For Dominic, I'll note that we have a new alternate here. Monica Consoli has just joined the meeting as an alternate for James Bull. So welcome, Monica, and just make sure you note that in the minutes.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a lot of hands up, so I apologize if I'm not doing this in the order that you initially arranged them, but I'm just trying to handle it the best I can. So go ahead, Desmond.
I had a question about something Bryce had said earlier. Did you say that Kevin Maurer is open to the National Committee but would prefer not to be? Because I think that of the remaining candidates, he'd be best if he's very willing to do it. He's been one of the earliest members of the party. He's super motivated about what he does, and he gets stuff done. He turned around the Utah chapter, where it was essentially dead, to being one of a fairly active chapter, and I would support him, but I hadn't previously heard that he may not prefer to be on the National Committee. Can you speak to that, Bryce?
I guess if that's a point of information, I can do that. Yeah, the last communications I've had with him, he's seemed fairly happy to be on. He said that whatever the delegates think is best, he'll go with. He's happy to be there in Utah and building that party. But if the delegates think he would be better on the National Committee, he would be willing to do that. So at some point he did express some reluctance, I think, based on some attacks that were made on him a few years ago. So, but I think he's become more confident about that.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to Tai Chi next.
Thanks, Joshua. Not Joshua. I know Joshua just spoke. Thanks, Patrick. So I'd like to speak in favor of Mr. Albert Thompson. So I know he's a new voice to the party, but I think, especially with the goings on in our country and the cries for racial justice that are being heard throughout the country, I think it is imperative for us to elect a person of color onto this next sitting National Committee. Moreover, on top of that, Mr. Thompson has been has shown himself to be very mature in his thinking processes. We observed him sitting in on our most recent National Committee meeting, where he had proposed some very salient solutions and workable solutions to issues that may come up. So I definitely support him on that basis. Also, because I do help run social media for the Brian Carroll campaign, I've noticed that he is especially active on Twitter, and the Iron Professor does do a lot of promoting all views which are sympathetic to ours, and so I do highly support bringing him on board on our national team.
Okay, thank you, Tai Chi. I'll go to Matt Bosley next.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to speak in favor of Bonnie Callis. I think that Bonnie has been doing a lot of hard work for the party as the head of the editorial board. I think that she's really humbly taken on that role to make sure that our image is put forth well in the public, and at the same time has been a unifying force within the party, making sure to represent well a wide range of viewpoints. And working under her on the editorial board, I see that she works very hard, and I would love to see her on the National Committee.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I'm gonna, Joshua, did you want to speak again? Your hand's up, or is that from earlier?
Yes, I would like to speak in favor of Bonnie Callis as well. I've worked with her for the last 2 years on the editorial team. She's the editor-in-chief, is heading that up, and she's done a great job of managing the work as well as being ironic in her editing, rather than more pointed or divisive as Matt was talking about. She is able to bring people together and come up with solutions that work there. And she's shown a willingness to serve the party, and so I think she would make a good addition to the National Committee.
Okay, thank you, Joshua. I'm going to go to Monica Solar now.
Yeah, I would also speak in this round in favor of Albert Thompson, very much for similar reasons to Ty. I think we have a field of very good candidates. I think it's important to bring newer people on with fresh ideas. And I think I would recommend in this round voting for Albert. I do strongly feel, all other things being equal, we need a diverse national committee in many ways, both in socioeconomic, ethnicity, and sex. I was the only woman on the national committee for a while, and women do think differently than men. I'm sorry if some people think that's sexist. I think that diversity is important, but for this round, I'll be voting for Albert. I think he's shown a lot of wisdom. He has a certain experience and knowledge just as a historian. And in that little conference we had, he came up with some really good measured suggestions. I didn't always agree with him, but his thought process, the way he's thinking it through and listening to other views, which is critical, was brilliant. So I strongly suggest voting for Albert in this round.
Okay, let's go to Jacqueline now.
Unmute. I guess I have a logistical question in that when we recommend two people for two very different reasons that I can both equally support for their respective reasons, are we in a way pitting them against each other? Because for this round, I'm also going Albert for the reasons that have been, but I also fully intend to go Bonnie at some point. So I wonder if it might be more, I don't know if it's fair, if it's logistically fair, because this is at-large voting, not for individual seats. But I wonder if it makes sense to put someone forth, see if we have a majority on that person, because I don't know if, and then maybe re-examine the next person for the next nomination.
Right. I mean, so effectively, everyone is pitted against everyone else for each seat, because you only get to vote once. So if you want to vote Bonnie later, you can. You should just be aware you can only vote for one of them now.
I just wonder for efficiency reasons if maybe we should someone put something forth, and then if that person does not have the support, they don't have it.
Yeah, well, that is
and then
effectively
maybe
what
we could move a little faster, because I don't know. I'm new.
Yeah,
I know nothing.
That is effectively what we've been doing, I guess, with Patrick and Tony.
Right, and it seemed to work really well. So, but this time that we have two candidates for national committee that are both, the reasons that have been given for both are exceptional. I agree with you, Monica, about women think differently. We have different interests as well that need to be represented, just like people of color have interests and perspectives that need to be represented. I guess this will just, I'm assuming it just works itself out. Eventually,
yeah, I mean, that's something that I just
they get elected.
Yeah, that's something that I expect will kind of work itself out naturally if there's a cluster of people who support two different candidates. I mean, you're welcome to bring up in discussion, say, I want to vote for this person later, but I'm going to vote for this person now, or whatever. And
okay. I just want to back up what Monica said. I'm going to go for Albert in this round. That does not necessarily mean I am anti-Bonnie. I will see you again, Bonnie.
Okay. All right. So we've got quite a few other hands. Christy, I know you had your hand up. I don't know if you still do. Did you want to chime in?
No, I will. I'll endorse Albert for the reasons that Ty and I gave, first on the national committee. I think that diversity is crucial, and I think especially in kind of national event, having an African American male voice would be really, really crucial. Yield my time. Sorry.
Okay. So we'll go to next. We go to Kathleen, and thank you to those of you who are in the audience. By the way, I've seen a few people chime in the chat box. We're very happy to have you here with us. Yeah, we're going to go to Kathleen now.
This is quick and just I'm supporting Albert as well, but for different reasons. The only time I've met him is in our happy hour for the delegates, which was really fun. Thank you to who organized that. And I told him at that I was going to support him, and he is very personable and fun to talk to. And I think that those people skills are also going to be important for somebody on the national committee. I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. I'm going to go to Carter and then Esther.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we're all great, and I think we're all right in the fact that we have a lot of really great candidates. But right now, I think this round, my vote's going to go to Dane for a lot of the reasons that Zeb said. There's a lot of institutional knowledge that rattles around in Dane's head, for good or for ill. But there is a lot of institutional knowledge that rattles around in his head, and I think it's important that we have somebody with that memory, even if it's somebody that I don't agree with all the time, somebody with that memory and that knowledge in one of these 2-year seats on the national committee. I yield back my time.
Okay, thank you, Carter. I'm going to go to Esther and then Bryce.
I was just going to say in response to Jacqueline's comment that, I mean, not that talking about what you're going to do in a particular round is bad, but because all the votes are open to us on Zoyondo, and there's multiple rounds, if in the first round it looks like you're the only one voting for, say, Bonnie, and everyone else is voting for Albert, it's easy enough to switch in the second round without necessarily hashing it out beforehand. And it's not that inefficient to just have 2 rounds either, so that's all.
Okay, thank you, Esther. Bryce, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that we have a lot of wonderful candidates here, and one of the reasons that I'm actually going to buck a few of the last few comments, and I'm going to support Bonnie in this round because I think what Carter said about institutional memory, I think, is something that matters. We should have some institutional memory. That's one of the reasons that I thought Patrick Harris was a good person to put back on the national committee. And I support Bonnie because she's someone who has that institutional memory, who is not necessarily a polarizing figure. She's someone who will bring people together rather than I yield the balance of my time.
Carter, did you want to speak again? Where's your hand up from last time?
No, I just forgot to lower it.
Okay, all right. We have definitely been talking for more than 10 minutes about this now. I also realize there are a lot of candidates. If someone wants to speak in favor of a candidate that has not already been addressed, I would like to recognize you, but otherwise I'd like to go ahead and move to a vote. Okay. If that's the case, then Bryce, if you can get the Zoyondo link up for us. If you're having any issues with Zoyondo, make sure that you close your windows from previous votes, because there's been some issues with that. Sometimes people aren't able to get the new vote up, but let us know if you have any problems. Okay, we have like 28 votes now, so we still are waiting for at least a couple of you.
Yeah, let's see. Can someone record a vote for Albert for me? I'm having trouble with the
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
things. Yeah, so many. It seems like there's more and more options than even the last times. It's confusing. But
I'll note, Skylar, that there are in fact more options than there were in previous times.
yeah, why is that? Not more people haven't been nominated. So what?
Josh Perkins and Mary Kelleher got nominated.
But there's
so-
even like.
Well, there
Oh,
are
I
not.
see what it is because like I see like Sarah Bork and Esther Nicole are on there, but those are as delegates. There was a problem with my window.
Okay.
Okay.
If you want, you can just make your voice make a verbal.
I can figure it out after this time. I see.
Skylar, your vote's recorded.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I did that for Skylar.
Patrick, could you record a vote for me for Albert as well, please?
Yeah, was that William Campbell?
Yes, it was.
Okay, all right. So we'll do that.
I have a request. There are now 2 Monicas voting, so I'm going to ask the other Monica if when you vote, you can put your last name in.
Oh yeah, it'll be good just to keep that. So right now there's only one.
I'll edit that name. I'll edit that name for now. But
okay.
If you think that's a reasonable request.
Yeah, Monica, have you already voted? Monica Solar.
I have. It was under Monica Tully Solar. I put the name
okay.
in.
So there
Hopefully
are 2.
it's in there.
Okay, yeah. So there are 2 Monicas on the list already. Okay, so we'll just edit the name and put Monica C, but she can do that going forward, hopefully.
Yeah, and I actually just voted.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So everyone's voted no.
Point of order. Last
go ahead.
year, when people who were holding proxies, or in this case alternates, were voting, they put in after their name who they were an alternate for, which just helped with the record keeping. So I would encourage that again.
So I'll note that there is a distinction between an alternate and a proxy. A proxy, you are voting on behalf of someone. An alternate, you are actually there in their place. You are, so it's that there is a distinction. There's not as much thought of being bound to them.
Yeah, there's no rule that says the alternates have to vote any particular way just because they were told to do so. It worked a little bit differently with proxies last year. Okay, so I believe everyone has had an opportunity to vote. If you will look at the results, you will see that there is very narrowly not a majority in favor of any candidate. So we will go to a second round of voting. All of the nominations will stay the same because we don't do eliminations until after the second. But you guys can look at the results at the link to give an idea of who the viable candidates are based on the voting that's gone on so far. And if Bryce, if you could just go ahead and get us a second round link up.
Yes.
I want to withdraw in this round in favor of Albert.
So I actually, there's one person who didn't vote because Monica was here for James Bowl, and I just realized that they both voted.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So James voted in the poll as well. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Monica C, for joining us. James will be here in his own capacity now. I guess whichever, I don't know which vote we should discount, whichever one did it second, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so James came in second. Oh, I guess it's Ryan Governal who didn't vote.
Yeah, Ryan wasn't here, but I just promoted him to panelist. So.
Yeah. So. I don't know if you want to I feel like James, since James is the delegate, that his vote should stand.
Yeah, that's fine. Were they the same vote?
No.
Oh. Okay, so it's not just a matter of not just an arbitrary issue. They actually voted differently.
Can I
yeah.
move for a do-over?
No, I think we should just.
That works.
I think we should just move into the second round. Personally, I'm gonna delete Monica's entry.
Yeah, I mean, we can just have a note that there was an error there, but it doesn't actually affect the outcome because no candidate received a majority anyway.
Right.
Although, Bryce, point of information, does the majority that the candidates have to receive, is it a majority of the votes cast or of the total number of delegates?
Cast, but in this case, Ryan's non-vote would not affect the outcome.
Right. Okay. All right. We're just gonna have that as, you know, yeah. But Dan, go ahead.
I just wanted to withdraw and back Albert on the second round of voting.
Okay. I don't know if there's like a procedure for someone to be denominated, but if you're a candidate,
people can still vote for me. I'll be on the ballot. I just
right.
won't be voting for myself, and none of you should either.
Right. Okay. So for the record, Dane does not wish to be voted for in the next round of voting. Yeah, so we'll just keep Monica Consoli and James's votes because it doesn't change the outcome, and we'll just have that as a
Sorry, I already deleted Monica's vote.
Oh, you deleted Monica's vote. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, it makes sense to go with James, I guess, since he was the delegate. But all right, in that case, we're going to go ahead and go to the second round. And I believe Bryce has it up there in the chat now. Well, that was fast. There's still a few votes filtering in, so Bryce, you can leave that open. And if anyone's having any issues, just let us know. Oh, I see James is still listed as an attendee. I guess he was able to vote without being a panelist, but let me promote him so he can speak if he wants to. Sorry about that, James. All right.
Alert, James Bol has joined the meeting. Currently unmuted. Alt plus A button to act.
Okay, like I said, still a couple of votes filtering in. We'll leave it open for another minute or so, but we have a clear majority in favor of Albert Thompson for the third two-year seat on the National Committee, so congratulations to Albert. We can go ahead and move to the fourth two-year seat on the National Committee, and we'll enter the nomination period. And yeah, the floor is open. Bryce, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to just nominate Bonnie Callis.
Okay, we have a nomination for Bonnie Callis. Do we have any other nominations?
It needs to be seconded.
Oh, right. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'll second
I
that
second
mostly.
Okay, we had several, but I saw Matt Bosley was one of our people who wanted to second it, so we can go with him.
Point of
and
information.
I'm sorry, what's that,
don't
Monica?
doesn't everybody roll over anyway that was nominated before? Isn't that what we
They
decided?
actually do not unless you
Oh,
renominate them.
all right.
Yeah, this is just me saying I don't think it makes sense to not to roll over all these people and have a list of 10 people when 3 or 4 are getting voted on. I think for one, it makes it much more. I think it makes it confusing for everybody, but especially Skylar. So I think I don't see a point to it.
Yeah. So
Nominate all.
Okay. Dane nominates everybody from the previous.
Second, Carter seconds.
Okay, Carter Benitez seconds. Okay, so now everybody rolls over. Are there any nominations that are not rolling over? Any new nominations? Okay, if not, I'll open the floor for discussion for the 4th National Committee seat. Bryce. Bryce, you're muted.
Sorry. I'm going to reiterate my support for Bonnie. I think she's been around the party for a long time. I think she's a good non-polarizing voice. I think she's got a lot of, she's got some of that institutional memory that we need. And I think she's a great decision maker. I think it's always good when you have people from her state, like Tai Chi, who said, hey, I don't really want her to be nominated because I don't want her to leave Illinois. That's a huge endorsement. Yeah, vote for Bonnie. I yield the balance of my time.
Okay, thank you, Bryce. We're going to go to Joshua Perkins.
Yes. I want to reiterate as well my support for Bonnie Callis for the reasons that Bryce mentioned. As well, I think what Monica mentioned in the last round, that having a diversity on the national committee and only Christy Yao, the only female member. So I think adding another woman would be a great idea. In addition to the other reasons stated. I yield time.
Okay, thank you, Joshua. Let's go to Christy now. Yeah, Christy, I don't think anybody can hear you right now. If there's something that you want to say to speak to one of the candidates, do you think you could just type out in the chat box? Okay, yeah, Christy is going to type what she wanted to say. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to Tai Chi.
So, yes, I do want to speak in support of Bonnie. This is so not wanting to lose her in Illinois is a real concern. However, that does not detract from my support for her from the National Committee. So Bonnie's been very talented, a very mature voice, both as an editor for our newsletter, as well as performing other party roles here. So she was one of the only members who was able to go cross state borders to help out at another state's event. So both her and I went to the Kane County State Fair in support of Dave Beauvais and his wife when they were had an ASP booth there. She also was with me at an FEC regional convention meeting in Chicago, where we were networking with not just other third-party individuals, but lobbyists and state reps from the 2 major parties as well. So I think she conducted herself very well during that event, And in addition to institutional knowledge, some familiarity with FEC rules does help inform what this next national committee will be doing. So we do have a couple of motions, my motions, to make FEC recognition as a party committee something to be prioritized. So I think, yeah, just for everyone on the national committee to have a little bit of knowledge there on that is a plus. So thank you, Bonnie. I'm going to yield my time.
All right, thank you, Tai Chi. I'm next going to recognize David Bove.
Hi. Yeah, I think there's a lot of great candidates here. I certainly support Bonnie and the others, and Tony and Patrick, who've been, and Albert, who's been already elected. But I just want to say a little bit in favor of Lois Kirshen. I think the institutional memory is great that a lot of people have. There have been a lot of people that already have a lot of experience within the party that have been nominated and elected. I think she has a lot of experience outside the party. She's been a member of the Democrats for Life, president of Democrats for Life, and has really courageously, I think, stood up for pro-life cause within the Democratic Party against a lot of hostility for decades, literally decades. And she would have some outside experience. I think we do need a few more outside voices. Again, I'm very in favor of institutional memory and continuity as well, but I think outside voices are also good. I see a lot of support for other candidates, and maybe she won't be elected this time, but I just wanted to speak in favor of her. And maybe at some future point, she'll have a role, or maybe, and maybe she'll get more support this time due to my speaking in favor of her. Thanks very much.
All right, thanks, David. Yeah, I think someone pointed out Lois was, she was one of the co-founders of the DFLA, but she was their Texas chair, I believe, or Texas president. Yeah, so I'm going to go to Sean Dominsic next.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to speak briefly on something I think we should all be aware of, and in agreement with some of the voices we've heard, but also a little bit turning our direction in a different way. We talked about the idea of sort of polarization and such, and I think that especially in our times when things, we spoke earlier of, calls for racial justice, and, we're speaking of the pro-life Democrats and such. And I think that, part of our mission as the party to serve the common good does arise from our willingness to be polarizing when the common good is in question. And so I just wanted to speak on that and say that I think that it's important to be considering candidates who certainly are able to find common ground with others, but also are willing to take a strong stance, especially on these divisive issues that really represent the core values of the party. And that's all I want to say on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sean. Monica, did you want to speak again?
Yeah, I don't think I've spoken this round.
Oh, you may not have, in which case I apologize. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I'll follow up a little bit on what Sean said. Having been on the national committee the past 2 years, prior to that, I was on the board of Imago Dei. So I've seen a lot of things going on in the party. I find the national committee, and I think it's critical, the national committee is executive. You need people with executive skills, with insights that can help grow the party. I think that sort of challenging behavior and taking a stand is best served for delegates and for people in party chapters. I have seen conflict in extremes destroy a national committee in 2017. And I think it's vital we get people that can work together in groups to fulfill an executive role. We have tremendous candidates to pick from, but I think it's really, really important that just for the national committee role, we look at executive skill over ideology. I think very highly of everyone being elected. I have concerns with some people's ability to play in groups consistently, and I do not want to see a national committee crumble because of infighting. So my vote's going towards people that have a history, have shown the ability to work in groups. And for this vote, although there's a lot of people I really would like on the national committee, I think for that reason, I'm going to go with Bonnie. I yield my time.
All right, thank you, Monica. I'm going to go to Reynard next.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. What I was going to say was that I also would like to cast my support for Bonnie. I think that it's been said she is not a polarizing figure, and I agree with that. I think on a national level, there has to be the ability to build consensus, and I think there has to be the ability to work across the aisle with different people, especially as we start to engage with different institutions and social groups in order to achieve our objectives, because we can't do it alone. I think a good executive mind with a positive temperament is necessary to keep the national committee in line, and I would like to fully endorse Bonnie for that. And with that, I yield my time.
Okay, thank you, Reynard. We've definitely, again, run about 10 minutes on this discussion. So I would prefer to bring it to a close unless anybody wants to speak on behalf of a candidate that has not been addressed.
I would like to, see, am I unmuted? Sorry, I'm having trouble with the raising hand lately.
Yeah, go ahead, Skylar.
I'm going to speak in favor of Lois. I do think it's good to have someone who has both the leadership experience, executive experience, and even though she's new to the party, it sounds like from the people who've talked to her that she does have a commitment to the party. And Chris Bonnie has been an amazing volunteer, really allowed our blog and our editorial team to take off. But I think the possibility of having Lois gain a seat and be assured of a seat is worth consideration because of her experience, long term in the whole life movement and in the political side.
Okay, thank you, Skylar. And with that, I would like to go ahead and bring us to a vote on round 4. And I believe
it's in the chat.
Yep, Bryce has a vote for us. Yeah, or seat 4, not round 4, but anyway.
If you saw something weird there, I accidentally wrote the name of my candidate in my own name, but I fixed it. I need some more coffee too, Ty.
About to refill myself, yeah.
Yeah, someone could record voting for Lois.
Are you going to do that, Patrick?
Yes, sorry, I'm jumping between windows. Yeah, I recorded a vote for Skylar.
Yeah, I think just in this case that we should just always have you do it rather than maybe having multiple people put it in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I'll do that going forward if Skylar has any issues.
We're missing only one vote.
It looks like Jacqueline dropped out.
Yeah, is Jacqueline not on the call right now? I hadn't noticed that.
I'll shoot her a message on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for checking with that. I think we can go ahead and move ahead though, because even if she voted, I don't think it's going to give anyone a majority of the votes cast.
That's true.
Yeah. So so if she gets back here, she can record her vote. But I think we can go ahead and move on to round 2 of voting. You guys can look at the results so you have an idea of who our viable candidates are.
Yeah, so can you just, do you mind if I just read out the results?
Yeah, go ahead and read the results.
So it's 15 votes for Bonnie, 13 votes for Dane, and 4 votes for Lois. Jacqueline says that she just lost internet and will be back momentarily.
Okay. If you want, you can ask her if she wants to record a vote for that round, but won't change the result.
Okay.
Point of information.
Yeah, go ahead, William.
What's the threshold for a majority out of the 33 candidates?
So if all 33 candidates vote, it would be 17 votes. But it can be lower than that if we have a lower vote count.
Thank you.
If we have as few as 31 votes, of course, then it would be a 16-vote majority. I don't think we've had few enough votes to have a majority lower than that, though, so far. Okay.
We now have 34 votes in the poll.
Okay, how did that happen?
Apparently Jeff Culberth voted twice.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's no issue. We'll just count that as one.
Deleting the second entry for Jeff Culberth. So the final count is 16 to 13 to 4.
Okay. All right.
16 for Bonnie, 13 for Dane, and 4 for Lois.
Okay. All right. So we have 16 for Bonnie, 13 for Dane, 4 for Lois. I think we've had a pretty good discussion of the merits of the candidates already. So I'd like to go ahead and move to the second round of voting.
Yeah, it's still listing 34 votes even after getting rid of the second one from Jeff.
Oh, that's weird. Maybe it takes a minute. It has been a little
Oh,
bit.
there's also two votes from James Bowl.
Oh, okay. All right. So doesn't change the result, but does it change the result at this point? I don't know. Does it?
No.
Okay. So you can remove that from the record, but everybody, the second round is up for voting. So.
Yeah. I think that Jacqueline is going to end up calling in from her cell phone. Is Christy on a cell phone, or is she still here?
I think she said she was going to call back from her phone, and I did see she already voted on the new poll. So
I'm
Okay.
here. Can you guys hear me now?
yeah, we can hear you much better actually.
Oh, it's the best news I've heard all day.
Bryce, just as a point of information, but since you're someone who's spoken with Lois recently, do you think that she's inclined to accept a appointment to the NC? Or?
Yes. I mean, I think she will. She would take it. She would also take an appointment to the advisory board that Taichi has proposed.
Okay.
Who did that?
That was me.
I do that for my classes when they're taking a quiz.
Okay, I believe we are still waiting on a few votes to trickle in, maybe one or two, but we do have a majority for seat 4 in favor of Bonnie Callis. So congratulations to Bonnie. We can leave the poll open for a minute if anyone still needs to vote. But we now have 2 remaining seats to elect on the National Committee. These will be 1-year terms instead of 2-year terms. And I will now open the period of nomination for the first 1-year seat.
I move that all nominees be brought over from previous rounds.
Second.
All right, we have a move to renominate everybody remaining from Carter, a second from Albert. Do we have any additional nominees yet, Dane?
I just wanted to speak up in favor of Carter. I did not expect that both of us would be running this late in the rounds, but I think
Point of
Carter is
order.
really valuable.
Yeah, but yeah, before we get to that, can we just make sure there are no further nominations?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Bryce,
Sorry.
did you have something?
Yeah. I wanted to nominate Desmond Silvera for a 1-year term on the National Committee.
Seconded.
Okay, Desmond has been nominated and seconded. In the interests of just in the interest of the vote, Desmond, would you be inclined to accept that?
I would accept it if I got elected, but I don't necessarily advocate getting elected.
Okay. All right. Are there any additional nominations? Okay. If not, Dane, did you want to pick up where you left off about Carter?
I just wanted to back Carter. I think his insight has been really good, even though he hasn't taken on a ton of volunteer roles in the party. I think the key at being on the national committee is having a record of being a good decision maker. And everything I have seen from Carter, even though it's limited, indicates that he's really good at that. It's ultimately about directing volunteers, not electing the effective volunteers. And I think Carter will be awesome in that capacity, and encourage everyone who voted for me in the last round to support him for this seat.
Okay. Does anyone else want to speak in favor of one of our remaining candidates? Christy, go ahead.
I'd like to speak in favor of Sean Champagne, who's been around for a while. With him on my leftover lefties group, I think he'd bring a great diversity, not only, you know, as another African American male on the committee, but also diversity of opinions. And I think that's important for us to be a broad, you know, umbrella of a party.
Okay. Tai Chi, go ahead.
I would like to also speak up in favor of Carter McNeese. Mr. McNeese and I have been on several calls together. We don't always agree on things, but I think his points are always very well made. His past political experience does lend itself to an executive role within the party for our purposes as well. So Carter, thank you for your long history of work, even though a lot of it has been outside of this party. If elected, I do look forward to bring that experience into the National Committee as well.
Okay, thank you, Tai Chi. I'm going to go to Alan Mickle now.
Yes, I also support Carter in this round as well. We have had some limited interaction, but I've found what he's said has been balanced and helpful. And as someone who's also served in the ministry, I know how important it is to bring people together, to unify thoughts and things like that, and to get people on the same page. And Carter's experience and those kind of things are really going to bring that together. So I also support him on this.
Okay, let's go to Desmond.
I had more of a question about Lois. I've heard, I've never interacted with her at all, but I've heard positive things just now from other people. How long has she been with the party, and is she fully aligned, or even not necessarily fully, but largely aligned with us? There are, slight differences between the ASP and the Democrats for Life of America. So I wanted to know if anyone had more insight on that.
Yeah, can anyone speak to that? I mean, I know she's been with us for a few months. I'm not exactly sure when she became an official member, but maybe someone who's spoken to her like Bryce can address Desmond's question a little better than I.
I mean, I think that's a difficult question to raise, because I think fundamentally, as we'll see later in the afternoon, that there's some major disagreements within what this party's identity is. I think she's certainly aligned with one of the groups of the party. I couldn't tell you, where she would be in terms of accepting of the whole party. I think that's would be one reason to maybe hold the brakes on her and put her on. Well, I'm getting into speaking time now rather than answering question.
Okay. Well, someone, James Bull was asking about how to raise his hand. That's in the participants button. Is that correct?
Yeah. So James, if you go down to the participants button, so there should be some things at the bottom of your screen: participants, chats, share screen. So if you click on participants and you go to the bottom of the participants box, there should be a raise hand button.
Okay. I'm going to go to Ryan now.
Yeah, I would like to speak in favor of Carter McNeese as well. from what I understand, I know that Carter has experience in a leadership and decision-making role, which I think makes him a good choice for a leadership position on the national committee. And personally, from what limited amount of work I've seen from him, I'm impressed by, and I think he would be a good leading voice to have on the national committee, and I would look forward to seeing him take a more prominent role in the party. I yield my time.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. I'm going to go to Matt Bosley.
I just wanted to say that I too support Carter. I would very much like to see him on the national committee for this round, for this seat, rather, or the first round at least. I intend to cast my vote for Lois Kirshen, though. I think that her experience as having a leadership position in DFLA is going to be invaluable. Monica mentioned that executive skill, and I think that she's somebody who obviously has that. I haven't had the chance to meet or speak with her yet, but just based on her qualifications, I think that she would be an excellent addition to the National Committee.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Let's go to James Bull.
Hey, yeah, maybe I wanted to speak on Carter. I think that the organizing experience that he brings to the table is really important. I've been out in the streets the past couple weeks and working with folks in the DSA and stuff, and Democrats and whatnot, and he's got a lot of experience there. So having a voice like that who's also extremely religious and understands that perspective and the way to network is super important, I think, and would be really valuable for the NC. So he's definitely the person I'm most excited to vote for in this election cycle. So.
Okay, thank you, James. Let's go to, let's see. I think everyone who has their hand up now has already spoken. Dane, did you want to speak again? Well, I guess Bryce hasn't weighed in on the candidates per se, so I guess.
No, that's just my residual hand. I'll lower it.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. In that case, Bryce, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I took some more speaking time than I meant to with answering Desmond's question, but
right.
So, I mean, I think we have a wealth of great candidates here. I nominated Desmond because he's just been the rock of this party for since 2016, being campaign manager for Maturing campaign and the Carroll campaign, serving as vice chair of this party. And I remember during the contested 2018 election when he similarly he ran for, he actually put himself out there for that election with the pitch of "Don't vote for me," and still got nearly a majority of the party to vote for him. So, I mean, I think that's just a testament to just how much respect he holds within this party. But I'm actually, after hearing everyone talk, I'm leaning toward voting for Carter. Carter's been, I work with him on the North Carolina committee. He's a very strong individual that's helps make the committee work. He does have this field organizing experience with the Democratic Party that I think would, that he can bring that experience, and he's expressed an interest in getting together a team and holding trainings for people, because we are an online party. We don't know how to go out in the field and do stuff and knock on doors, and I think that's something that we really need, and I think that's something that Carter would bring. It seems based on the people who have spoken in favor of him, he's broadly acceptable to everyone in the party, and I think that that's a great thing. And I mean, he has a vision of what he wants to see. You know, he's going to be your strong advocate. So, yeah, I think in this round, Carter would be an excellent choice. I guess I probably don't have any time left. So.
Okay, thanks, Bryce. Reynard, did you want to speak up before we bring everything to a close?
Hand.
Oh, did you say you accidentally raised your hand?
I didn't want to speak.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, all right. I see one more hand, and then I think I'm going to bring discussion to a close on this because we've definitely run past our allotted time. Esther.
Oh, it's not a discussion point. Just that Jeff Colbreth had to sign off, and his alternate is in the process of signing on. So I don't know if we want to hold the vote for a minute to give him a chance to get on.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think that'd be a good idea. Just,
okay.
I mean, probably we can start voting. And
yeah, if you just leave the poll open for a minute, maybe. Because I just talked to him on the phone, and he didn't know that Jeff had to leave this morning. I guess we didn't communicate that very well, but he's coming.
Who is Jeff's alternate?
Vince DiCarlo, same as last night.
Oh, Vince DiCarlo, right. Okay. All right. Well, we can go ahead and get the poll up, and we'll make sure that Vincent gets a chance to vote.
Coffee break. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. So let's just, as soon as Bryce is able, we'll go ahead and start voting.
Jacqueline, you're here, right?
Present, yes, finally.
Okay. I just meant to make sure I didn't need to send you a link through Facebook.
No, actually, I had the cell phone going in the background while I tried to get the internet back. So now you're only in one place. We're good.
I just figured out that as the meeting host, I can rename you guys on the panel. So I took the liberty of making Desmond the Rock Silvera. But
please give us all exciting nicknames.
Yeah, I was thinking I might try to come up with some. I don't know if that shows for you guys or if it only shows for me, but
Ooh, I want to be the Empress of something.
yeah, we'll just start.
Empress of anything. I don't care. I've just wanted to be an Empress ever since the Neverending Story movie came out when I was a kid.
Well, yeah, I'll just start handing out titles for everybody.
My Discord nickname is Chewy, so.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
I'm large and growly and fuzzy.
Ty moved kind of jokingly in the discussion about having a 2-minute coffee break, but I'm wondering, I don't know how much longer we have before our designated break. I'm wondering if we could have a very short break for bathroom use, etc.
Yeah, we have gone on for a while. We can, someone after we finish this round of voting, if someone wants to move for a 5 or 10 minute recess, that would be fun.
I'll note that the results are probably Vincent, I see you're here. You should, I guess I can post. I've reposted the link for you in the chat so you can vote for the National Committee.
Patrick, if you can record my vote for Carter, please.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Man, I didn't even say the thing about how Carter lives in a rural majority minority county, which gives him a very different perspective on things from a lot of the rest.
Okay, Vincent, are you able to see the link now? So it should be right above you.
I don't think he's a panelist.
He's not a panelist. Okay, my apologies. I forgot to do that. Okay, so I just promoted Vincent to panelist, so he should be able to see the link because it's sent to all panelists. If he can't, then we can just post it again. Yeah, Vincent, try to say something now. You should be able to speak. Okay, we can't hear you yet if you're there.
Doesn't have a microphone listed.
Yeah, you're a panelist now, but for some reason your mic is not hooked up to the call. But you should still be able to vote. Joshua just reposted the link.
Yes, I believe when you connect for the first time, the chat is empty.
Did anybody get that? I couldn't hear.
Yeah, he was saying when you connect for the first time, the chat is empty. So he was sending it again. So because he.
Okay, all right, yeah. Thanks for doing that. I didn't know that was the case. Okay, yeah. So Vincent should be able to vote at least. I'm not sure what's going on with his microphone, but.
I can call him and try to see.
He had posted that he couldn't hear us, which sounds like, the pop-up that asks you to connect to computer audio. It sounds like he just hasn't clicked that, or that it didn't pop up for him.
He's voted now. So
yeah,
the final
like everyone
result.
has.
Final result is Carter 27, Lois 6. I move to take a 5-minute recess.
Yep. Do we have a second?
Second, Esther.
Back at 12:25 on the Eastern time.
Okay. All right. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. If we pass this, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed? Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. I'm just going to leave the call open, but I'm just going to shut my video off, and we'll all be back in 5. So how's everybody doing?
Decompressing. Um,
This is definitely a marathon, isn't it?
Yeah, if it makes you feel better, last year was worse.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
May I just test my microphone? Can you hear me? And is there an annoying noise in the background?
No annoying noises.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Nothing annoying. So
good. It took a lot. I did a lot of troubleshooting. Okay, thank you. Glad it worked.
I'll note that we've the allotted time has expired. If anyone is not here, please raise your hand.
yeah, we've still got a few people who have switched off their videos and aren't back with us yet. In fact, we have quite a few. So I maybe will give them a little bit of a grace period, but we do need to get started here in a minute. Looks like Albert is back. Okay.
I'm here. My camera's off because you don't need to see me munch on graham crackers and peanut butter.
Oh yeah, I was eating an egg sandwich earlier. I had my camera off during that period. So
Yeah, I'm gonna turn my camera off.
And I can hear everything that's going on. So I'm here.
okay, great. All right. I'll give people another minute, and we're going to start back at 11:30, and people can just kind of trickle back in if they're not here yet.
So we filled 4 seats.
We filled 5 seats actually.
5
we only
seats.
have 1 left.
Okay, then I left.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't write Carter down there on my list here.
Yeah.
All right.
We're actually going to have.
Have we gone into the 1 year already?
Yeah, we filled 5 seats, right? So it was me, Tony, Albert, Bonnie, and Carter.
So is Carter then on the 1 year?
Yeah, Carter got a 1-year seat.
Okay.
And
I
so,
vote for him again next year.
yeah, yeah, you can vote for him next year if you like. So we have 1 more 1-year seat to fill, and we're probably going to have quite a bit of time left before our planned recess, like about an hour, which is good because we do have a lot left on the agenda, and it would be good to kind of knock that out before we break for lunch, which I know the lunch break is a little late for people on the East Coast, but it's pretty early for people on the West Coast. So
just a question, is it, and if this is a problem, just say, shut up, Monica, but are there things that will be quick to deal with and pass that we can move up on the agenda that we don't anticipate, or do we need just to go in order? I mean, either that out.
So we would have to have a motion to suspend the rules and move something, which would take a 2/3 vote, I think. But I do think that would be a good idea. I know that I'm aware of some people that are planning to make such motions. So
okay.
I would let them speak for themselves.
Yeah, if there's something that people think we can deal with very quickly and uncontroversially, we're open to doing that motion like Bryce said. We did try to put some of the easier stuff last night so that we could get that out of the way, but there may be some other things as well that we can take out of order.
Yeah, the intention with the vendors of values last night was for it to not be controversial, and well, that failed. So
yeah, that ended up taking a lot more time than I thought it would.
But I think that there are some controversial things that can get taken care of pretty quickly as well. So
yeah, I actually have been very impressed by the speed with which we have gone through the National Committee elections. I thought that was going to take all morning potentially, and we've actually done that fairly efficiently. So kudos to all you guys for that. Okay, it is 11:32, so it's already been well over our planned 5-minute recess. I'm going to get everybody started again. If there are people still trickling in, we can deal with that, but I really should stop using the word trickle. So we still have 1 National Committee seat to fill. This is a 1-year seat. Are there nominations for that seat?
I move that we roll over all previous nominees.
Seconded.
Second.
Okay, Carter moves to roll over previous nominations. A bunch of people seconded, but we'll go with Monica Zoller. Are there any additional nominees aside from those that we've already considered? If not, I will open the floor for discussion for our 6th and final National Committee seat. Bryce?
Yeah, so I think we still have a wealth of great candidates, but one that hasn't gotten a lot of mention here is Michael Beer. We've had a lot of mention of diversity in terms of sex and race, but I think one thing that I also think is important is diversity of having a working class voice on that national committee, and I think that's something that Michael brings. I know that he also has time. He's expressed time and willingness to work hard on the committee, and he's been a great voice for racial justice, and he's also broadly appealing to all segments of the party. And I'd like to yield the balance of my time to Michael to let him speak for himself.
Okay, yeah, I believe Michael's on the call, so go ahead if you would like to speak for a couple minutes.
All right, there we go. Thanks for the kind word, Bryce. Yeah, I do bring a different background. I'm, work in the trades. I'm not a professional. I'm not an academic. Also, yeah, I do a lot of stuff here locally. I mean, I don't make, I did make the paper the last couple of weeks, but, I don't make a lot of waves. I know I've interacted with a lot of people here. I don't know, Tai Chi and Monica and Patrick might be like, well, we had them at the last National Committee meeting. It's a bit long-winded, so that might be a detriment to the committee meetings. But I do think that I can bring some energy. Right now, I'm still figuring out how to be more active too, locally. And I think that's what we need to work on is get out. We kind of had our 3 popes of JP2, Benedict, and Francis is kind of kicking us out of the nest saying, all right, get out there now, put all the stuff that you've learned the last 30 years to practice. And I think I don't have a great skill set as far as administration goes, but as far as helping to make decisions, I think I could be just another voice for the working class. And also I'd like to mention Shane Hoffman. Besides Brian and Amar in November, the people of Ohio can write in Shane. Is Shane still here? I'll yield my time to Shane if he wants to talk.
I think he was here earlier. I don't know if he's here right now.
He's in the chat right now.
Oh,
so
okay.
He's listening for sure.
Okay, sure. I can promote him. Ordinarily, we only have 2 minutes per person to speak, but if someone else wants to yield their time to Shane, that would be fine. I'm going to let him.
Are you still up here, baby?
Let's see.
I wonder what's going on.
He needs a minute.
Okay, so Shane said he needs a minute because he's he's on the clock at a public job. So yeah, we don't want Shane to violate the Hatch Act. So we'll give him a minute, and I'll go ahead and move on to someone else who wants to speak. Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to, I've been serving with Michael Beard in Indiana. I just want to echo the words that Bryce said about him. From my experience, when we as a committee say, hey, we need to come up with an idea, Michael's there and he'll put the thought in and he'll have multiple ideas and be willing to support other people's ideas if other people's ideas are selected, but he puts the thinking in, and he's a hard worker. If he says he's going to do something, he does it. And so like a lot of the more recent activity within the Indiana group on Facebook. Michael's really driven a lot of that, besides the work he's been doing with the recent current events. And he's been featured in the news multiple times, including great shots of him in news stories wearing his American Solidarity party gear. So Michael's a great party member and a great hard worker.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Let's go to Monica next.
Okay. Basically, I was getting ready to say what Bryce said. I have several people I really like, and I do really like Josh Perkins too. I think, however, the point made is you can kind of get the Oldies College. We have a heavy dose of historians with doctorates and things going on here. I think it's really good to get a blue collar's perspective, and I think the ability, the willingness of someone to work and put in the time is really strong. So as much as I like many other candidates and feel like this is we can hardly lose on this, I would strongly support Michael in this last position.
Okay, thanks, Monica. Let's go to Alan.
Yeah, I want to just give my support to Dane. Dane and I don't agree on everything. I'm a Canadian monarchist, and I'm not sure how I fit in the party in general. But I support him because he does push back. He does offer alternative opinions, and we're saying we need people that do that have differing opinions and perspectives. And so sometimes in order to get things done, we need those people who are willing to push back. And so I yield my time, but I do support Dane.
Okay, thank you, Alan. I'm going to go to Dominic DiCarlo.
Thank you. Sorry, I was finishing the notes on the last speaker. I'd also like to speak in favor of Dane Garrett for this position for a number of reasons. I know that we've had a lot of discussion about this is an important time for the party to reach out to other people. I think that's absolutely true, and I think that Dane has shown that in his constant reaching out to gain new members, to build new support for the party. I know that I can speak to that because personally I was brought into the party by Dane. It had always been something that I'd been aware of, but I hadn't really taken the leap on. And I know that he brought both myself and many other members, including some of the people. I believe some of the other people who ran for delegates for this convention. I also think that within the party, right, being on the national committee, having that leadership experience, being a good organizer, being very familiar with how the party runs. I think we've done a good job of picking a lot of people who have differing views and or different perspectives rather. I think Dane will only continue to add to that, as was mentioned, and that he will be a great leader leader of the party.
Okay, thank you, Dominic. I have a lot of hands to go through, so please be patient with me. I'm going to go to Jacqueline first.
Oh, sorry, I have a screaming child, so I lowered my hand.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. We'll let Jacqueline go back to the screaming child, and we'll go to James Bull.
Hey, yeah, I just wanted to speak up. I've been in the party for a long time. I've been kind of orbiting it for a little bit longer. And in that time, even though I think I'm probably the most left person in the convention and maybe in the party, I'd like to say that Dane has always been very gracious, even though that we've disagreed on social issues a lot and we've disagreed on economics and all kinds of things. And he's also been very amenable to my ideas and my concerns. So I think that he would be a really balanced person on the NC and would be able to definitely use that, be able to get things done, I think, really well. So that's my 2 cents on that. So I support Dane.
Okay, thanks, James. Let's go to Reynard.
Yes. Forgive me if the wind's blowing. I just stepped outside for a moment. What I was going to say was I do support Michael Beard from the National Committee, excuse me. And the reason why is because I believe that the idea of consensus is important, like I said with Bonnie. Michael has an ability, in my opinion, through my conversations with him and through his posts, has an ability to reach out to people in minority communities, despite the fact I believe he's not a minority himself, but he seems to have an understanding of that as well as having a working class background. So I believe with those two things intact, he can use those in the national committee and at large in order to help us reach out to people that we might not have a lot of appeal to right now. So, excuse me. So yeah, I do believe that Michael would be the best person for this position in the national committee. And with that, I yield my time.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Look, I'm going to go to Joshua Perkins next.
You expressed my support as well for Michael Beard for all the reasons Kevin also mentioned. Essentially, thank you. Yield my time.
Okay, I'm going to go to Sean next, Sean Dominsic.
Thank you so much. I'd like to speak in favor of Dane, and I've got a couple of reasons, and I think that something that makes Dane really perfect in this role is that he has an appeal to several different tendencies that I think are all valid and important, and all really important for the growth of the party. First thing, he absolutely has experience. He's been here a long time, and he's able to really commit himself to projects and get things done. Second, I think that he's, kind of as James has mentioned, has been able to show a tremendous graciousness and willingness to work with people and build those coalitions. We talk about common ground being really important in the party, and I think that absolutely, in our disagreements, and I've seen him in other disagreements be able to talk to a lot of people who you wouldn't think that we'd be able to build coalitions with and bring them into the party. And then third things is that he does have a real sense of direction. I think that certainly on the national committee and in terms of growing the party, we really need people who are really focused on recruiting, really focused on building up the resources that we have. And I think that, he's got a sense that this isn't just a, debate club. This isn't just, a kind of digital gathering. This is a real attempt to make some change. And I think that he, maybe more so than anyone else, is really focused. He has his eyes on that prize. And I think that's absolutely essential to building a strong national committee. So I have to give my wholehearted support to Dane. And I yield my time.
Okay, thanks, Sean. I'm going to go to Chris Zender now.
Okay, sorry, I was having a hard time unmuting. I'm speaking for Dane. I've known Dane since about 2000. I've always found he's a man of strong ideas. He holds strong ideas, but those ideas and those ideals that he holds to are the ideals of the party. Two, I would like to say that having strong ideas is not a bad thing, because ideas are what guide us in what we do. They give us direction. I would also like to say that Dane I've always found him very gracious in controversies with people. I've had difference of opinion with him, but I've always found him to be very kind in his way of answering. Finally, I think it's important because he's a decisive fellow, and he has a certain end the party needs. Especially on the National Committee, we need to see decision, and we need to see an active spirit. And so for those reasons, I support Dane Garrett.
Okay, thank you, Christopher. Now I'm going to go to Christy.
Hey, sorry, I'm still figuring out how the phone thing works. First, can everyone hear me well?
Pretty good.
Okay, awesome. So I support Michael Beard. I think it's pretty clear that this is now a Michael versus Dane thing. And although I consider Dane one of my best friends, which is surprising to a lot of people because we have really different views, I'm currently Dane's VP. Dane has been my VP of Maryland. And I think Dane is great at many, many things. I do think Michael Beard has the better temperament for being on the national committee. I think he has the greater potential to reach more people and more communities. And yeah, I just think temperamental wise, Michael is the better option.
Okay, thank you, Christy. I'm going to go to Sammy now.
Yes, I'd just like to say a quick word in favor of Dane. Dane's actually the one who brought me to the party, and he's someone who has a keen and focused interest in outreach and growing the party, specifically bringing in different people from different communities. I met him on the internet randomly in a Muslim Christian group chat, and he introduced me to the ASP, and I know that he's someone who is focused on reaching out to different communities, introducing them to the ASB and growing the party in that sense. It's important we have someone on the national committee with that type of focus on outreach. Dane himself, he's, comes from a working class background. He comes from a farming family, works construction, and he understands the importance of that diversity for the party's growth and future. I yield my time.
All right, thank you, Sammy. I'm going to go to Tai Chi now, and then Tyler.
All right, thank you, Patrick. So, so this is more of a question for a candidate. So Dane Garrett. So some people may know if you've been here long enough. So Dane's actually the person who recruited me to run for national committee. He and I also, we agree on some things, we disagree on some things. Sometimes we butt heads, and can butt heads rather passionately. But what I wanted to ask about here was, so Dane is also someone who has indicated that he wants to run in pursuit of a particular seat. So Dane is stated previously that he is interested in a state development chair position or state development position. So with that specifically in mind, with state development specifically in mind, I'm wondering if Dane has a particular vision that he would like to share with the committee or with the convention and assembly that we can take into our considerations.
Yeah, Dane, would you like to respond?
On state development, I think what we really need to focus on is getting systems together for state chapters. What we've been doing in the past is we just appoint people and say, okay, you're the Idaho chairman, be Idaho chairman, and people have no clue what that is. And some people have done amazing, and we have great chapters. My own in Maryland, Illinois, California, right, have done great with that model, but others have really floundered and not been successful with it. And it's not because the volunteers there aren't good. It's because the volunteers don't know how to pursue it. We need to create those mentorships that enable the success we've already seen to be applied, to learn the lessons of what works and what doesn't. I'm actually, Tony, I'm not picking on you too much here, but I know in Indiana when you were appointed, you started working on bylaws. And I thought, why in the world are you working on bylaws first? There's no events, like there's not the thing that doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter in the long run, but as the first step, I think those sorts of things are a distraction. But nobody gave you any advice on it. You just took the initiative and did it, right? And it's great that you took that initiative. But I think we should have had a framework for it. I also think it's going to be more effective if coordinated with the NC. I am willing to serve in the capacity if I'm not on the NC. But I've seen how it's worked when it hasn't been on the NC, and it hasn't generally been as effective. Yield time unless Tai Chi has additional questions.
Okay, next I'm going to go to Tyler Martin.
Thank you, Patrick. I just want to make a comment in support of Dane, and it's actually in follow-up to what Tai Chi had already mentioned. As many of you know, I'm new to the party, and I've had one-on-one conversation with Dane, but in terms of trying to build the Nebraska party here, the strategic wisdom and tactical guidance that I received from Dane in that one call has been very valuable to me and to our group here. So thinking that in this next season of the party, growing at the state level is a top priority, I support Dane and yield the balance of my time.
Right. Thank you, Tyler. Vincent, did you still want to chime in, or I know you said you were more interested in hearing from the candidates?
Yeah, I don't particularly want to speak. I want to hear from the candidates. If there's any other candidate who wants to talk, who's out of time, you can have my time.
Okay. All right.
That's my statement.
Okay. Well, we'll have some opportunities. This is I'm not going to close off debate too prematurely on this because we have a lot of people interested in speaking, and this is our last national committee seat. So I'm going to go to David Beauvais next.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Again, I'm going to put out another plug for Lois Kirshen. We have, again, a lot of great candidates. Both Michael and Dane, have a lot of great qualities to bring to the party that I think the supporters have outlined. But again, these are people that have been in the party for a long time, and we already have a lot of people on the committee. I think everyone on the committee has been with the party a long time, and they're kind of in with the same ideas that people have had for a long time. I think Lois, with all of her extensive experience from outside the party, would bring a new perspective and energy and perhaps networking and contacts that the party has not had so far. She's lost my train of thought, but she has had a lot of contacts and experience and would bring a new perspective and beyond the institutional memory that people have had already with the party. And it's just a 1-year term, as some people have said, and that if anything arises, then there will be another election next year. But I think she would be a very good addition to bring some new life into the party from the outside that would help the great people that we already have. No offense to Dane or Michael or any of the other great candidates that have been mentioned here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. I'm going to turn the floor over now to Bonnie Callis.
Sorry, thank you. I just wanted to make an observation that there is a resolution later in the day, I'm assuming, for a state development director that does not necessarily have to be on the NC. I think Dane would be great in that role. I think this is an opportunity for us to get like 2 for 1. If Dane's willing to be the state development director and the NC appoints him, he would be a great person in that role. And then we would have an opportunity to have another NC person that we vote for. That's all. I yield my time.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. I'm going to go to Matt Bosley and then Carter.
Yes, I'd like to take a minute and express my support for Michael Beard. I think that he's somebody who is very open to different ideas and is very welcoming to people. I had the opportunity to serve with him as a moderator for the Facebook group for several months, and I think that he acted very fairly and be a great addition to the National Committee. That being said, my preference would be for Lois Kirshen, but Michael is a close second there, and I would very much be happy with either one of them. I unfortunately feel the need to speak against the election of Dane Garrett. I think it needs to be known that despite the testimony of others indicating that he's had graciousness in debate, I've had a very different experience, and my time with him serving on the bylaws committee when I was originally the chair of that committee, I found him to be very not willing to compromise, and I found that his unwillingness to debate in good faith was a major factor in my motivation to resign from that position. And I'm very concerned about how he would interact and the type of environment he would develop as part of the national committee, and bringing that same type of personality to that committee. I yield my time.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I'm going to go to Carter.
I wanted to speak in favor of Dane. I do think that he would be fantastic as the state development person, and I hope that if this convention does create that position, that he is very seriously considered for that. But I do think that his argument that being a person on the national committee while serving in that role and having that just slightly better coordination is a strong argument. Dane, I think we all know, Dane is a man of strong opinions, strongly stated, and I have not always agreed with him. But I will say that having spent some time on the phone with him, my opinion of him and my desire to support him shifted. And I appreciate the time that he took to spend, honestly, a couple of hours on the phone with me, talking about the party and talking about history and of the party, and just getting a chance to know him a little better. And I yield back my time.
Okay, thank you, Carter. All the hands that I have now. Yeah. All the other hands that I have now are people who've already spoken, so I do want to give them some time. But first, I'm going to go to Jacqueline because I don't think she's chimed in yet.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I do have a quick question. Do we have, going back to Monica's statement earlier at the beginning of the morning, do we have a breakdown of demographics on the committee thus far? I know Bonnie has been elected. Because I'm just curious, Michael, by the way, I'm an academic, and your opinion and your presence is most welcome. I think that there are far too, no offense, y'all, I think there are far too many of us, and it may give the impression that that's who the party is, because there's a disproportionate number of academics among us. Don't get me wrong, I love us, but I think that you would bring something great to the table. However, I still support Lois as well. And going back to Monica's comment, do we have a good representation of women on the National Committee? We've been going through these so fast, I did not know how it broke down. So can somebody answer that for me?
Yeah, as of now, there are 9 seats on the committee, and there are 2 women, Christy, who will be carrying over, and Monica will be leaving, but we just elected Bonnie.
And then Christy is also on.
This is difficult. I yield the rest of my time. Michael, by the way, you're welcome, and I really appreciate your willingness to bring that, bring your perspective in. Not being an academic is not a negative, in my opinion. I think it's great to have you. Welcome.
Yeah, I'll just add that being an academic feels like a negative quite often.
So yeah, there are 3 of us now, and actually very close to the same field. I'm in political science, Patrick's in history, Albert's in history. So that is funny. Let's
give it to Lois or Dan.
Sorry, can I go next if no one else who hasn't spoken yet?
Yeah, you would be the first. Yeah, you're the only person who hasn't already spoken. I see Shane Hoffman is here and has his hand up. If anyone wants to yield time to him, but we can do that later. So go ahead, Skylar.
Right. So I think Dane is not an academic either. He also, like Sami mentioned, he also brings a working class background, but I do believe that he has more of a proven ability on the political outreach side. National committee votes and board decision making do require a lot of ability to deal with things like bylaws, even though the National Committee isn't making bylaws anymore. Dealing with the dynamics of funding political campaigns, dealing with state chapter development, as Carter mentioned, with Dane possibly being the state development director, as most people seem to agree at this point. And so I think Dane can provide that input on the national committee. And I think that Lois can as well, but Dane has the proven enthusiasm and I guess engagement with this convention, which makes it a lot easier to decide on him, to be honest. And I think that's really come out throughout this entire process today. And I say this as someone I've had plenty of disagreements with Dane myself at times, but we've been through it all and been through a lot together. And I do think that he deserves this last seat, and especially considering that I think we've done a good job filling the national committee with a lot of different perspectives during the day today.
Okay, thank you, Skylar. So I have several hands here. Those that are all people who have spoken at one point or another. Okay, let me promote Desmond. Just in the interest of letting all perspectives be heard, is there anyone who would like to yield their time to Shane Hoffman?
I see that Vincent is willing, so.
Yeah, that's fine. So Shane, would you like to address the convention?
Yes, I can for just a moment. I don't have a whole lot to say, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was coming through there. Listening through the course of today, I would like to say that with the makeup of the committee as it stands through the voting thus far, I feel like there is a good mix of people, and instead of putting myself forward or anything, I think that people like Dane and I, with this kind of makeup, it's much easier to lead from the rear. And I think that the committee could use a voice like Michael's on this one-year seat, because I believe that the state committee development person is going to have a ton of work to do, and that is going to hold a lot of weight, whether it's a national committee seat or whether it's an appointed position or whatever. So I think I would like to just finish my statement by saying that I think we could use Michael's voice in that position at this time, and I don't think it would take anything away from any of the work that Dane is prepared to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shane. I am going to go to Monica and then Dane. Jacqueline, were you interested in speaking again, or is that your hand just left over from earlier? Okay.
My bad.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Just want to make sure. I'm going to go to Monica and then Dane and then Bryce, and I'd like to bring the discussion to a close after that.
All right, you ready for me?
Yeah.
I was really trying to avoid giving this input. I agree with much of what has been said about Dane on both sides. I was on the board of Imago Dei, which some of you know is sort of an offshoot of the ASP on the more socially conservative side. And I was one of the original members of that. Dane's the one who asked me to join. I think Dane has a lot of strong skills on outreach, and I would support him as a state development director. However, both on Imago Dei and during my two years on the NC, we have had consistent problems with Dane as far as relating to other people and causing friction. I'm going to give you some examples that are already in public record from National Committee meetings. One, Matthew spoke of the bylaws committee. That went on and on and on. And finally, the NC called it, said you have till this week to get it done and submit something, period, or it won't get done. The result was the entire committee submitted one version and Dane alone submitted another version. We also had a difficulty with the Virginia chapter. Jane was very correct about what the difficulty was. The situation would have been resolved a lot sooner if Dane's personality and interacting had been a little bit different. He has a habit of pouring gasoline on fires. Now, you do want to light a fire sometime, and he has the ability to do that. However, on the national committee, it is vital, I think, given the friction that existed in past national committees, that we have a group where that friction does not happen. That doesn't mean people can't take a stand. They should. So the national committees I've been on, we've had a lot of differences of opinion. But I think Dane's temperament is not suited to the national committee. I think it would be a problem. I think he's a very ethical, strong person, and I think he would be great on outreach and state development, but I don't think he has the temperament for the national committee, regretfully. I strongly support Michael, and I actually strongly support not voting for Dane in this particular position, despite his many gifts. I yield my time if there's any left.
Okay, thank you, Monica. I'm gonna turn things. Zeb, I'll let Zeb speak because he hasn't yet, and then I'm gonna go to Dane.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I just had to unmute there. Well, I was also on the National Committee at the same time as Monica and was part of the oversight and decision-making of those two processes that she talked about. And I certainly don't see it the same way. I think that the essence of the problem in those situations was wishy-washiness in the leadership of the National Committee that allowed situations to go on and in some ways necessitated the people who were directly involved to increase the tension to the point where the National Committee had to actually intervene and deal with the situation. I think wishy-washiness has been a perennial problem among NC members, and having somebody who's more decisive and clear and willing to call for a decision and then let the decision fall where it may, and let the votes happen, rather than needing to hold off and wait and hope the situations resolve themselves and try to come up with a consensus rather than a majority decision, take action and move on, has been a problem that's inhibited our activity on the National Committee. And so I think Dane's temperament is exactly what we need. And as others have said, he is willing and able and eager to work with people who disagree with him and to respect differences. But he does expect action and situations to be addressed and in a timely way to avoid letting things drag out and do more harm because of that. So Monica and I just see things differently, and I'm not going to say that I have the correct opinion, but I just want to make clear to the rest of the delegates here that not all of the National Committee has the same perspective on those situations and on Dane's involvement as she does.
Okay, thank you, Zeb. I'm going to let Dane speak for himself now, and then Bryce, and then we're going to try to close this out and get to a vote.
I want to go back to a question Bryce asked in the chat about my position on state subsidiarity. We need subsidiarity in states making their own decisions, but what that needs to look like is democracy functioning within those state chapters, right? Elected chairmen of states and state committees should have huge latitude to do things that the NC thinks are a bad idea. So if I, as state development director, think something is a bad idea, I'll warn somebody, and if somebody says, shut up, Dane, I'll say, God bless you, right? I'm not going to make a fight about it. In the case of people who are appointed to states, that's a different situation. We need to get to democracy. Those people don't represent the members in their states. They represent us as delegates in the NC from the National Party. And I think it's fine for the National Party to step in, and should if there's a problem. That goes back to the Virginia situation Monica mentioned. I'm not going to name the specific name because this is being broadcast to all members, but a state leader at that time who had put a fraudulent resume in for an NC race, allegedly, so I don't get sued, and was accusing people of stalking him who lived on other sides of the state. It was a crazy accusation. Everybody knew it was false. I wanted a delicate solution of stepping in to trigger elections in Virginia. Virginia had never had elections. The NC didn't even really overrule that. The NC just declined to make a decision on it, and didn't remove him. And he kept escalating and escalating and escalating until it got to the point of financial misconduct. Like Zeb said, I think that when there's a problem, we need to deal with it. And if we come to a decision, I'll respect that decision. But I think expecting me to respect no decision as if it's a de facto decision isn't something I'm going to be willing to do. Back to Matt Bosley talking about the bylaws. That gets back to my support of democracy. The structure of that committee was designed so it was theoretically an elected position. I was advocating for my constituents, and then it was being treated as a sort of work group where any disagreement was unacceptable. And I did push back. We're a Christian Democratic Party. We need to model our faith in the party and democracy. I think if we just avoid conflict, we can't undermine democracy in the sake of avoiding conflict. If we do that, we're violating the basic spirit of what this party's about. Yield time.
Okay. We do have someone else who has not spoken, so I'm going to allow Ryan to chime in, and before Bryce, since Bryce has already spoken in favor of Michael, but I would really like to bring things to a close after that. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Patrick. I'll make this brief. I just want to follow up on something Dane said right at the end there. We are a Christian Democratic Party, and we are committed to democracy as a method of solving problems. And I agree wholeheartedly with what Dane said about not allowing some commitment to consensus to undermine the process of democracy, which necessarily includes sometimes vocal differences of opinion in getting things done, especially for positions that are supposed to be representative of the party. And as I think we all know, the party is not exactly unified around a clear consensus on all issues. And I think Dane's commitment to the democratic process that way is one of the best things about him as a candidate for the National Committee. So just like to bring that to the delegates' attention, and I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Bryce, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was on that bylaws committee with Dane, with Matt Bosley, with Tony Gaddotti, with Matthew Bartko. I think that Dane's portrayal of it is a misrepresentation of what happened. We came that I think he's accurate in saying that it wasn't the best put together committee. So when he says he was representing his constituents, we had an election for 4 seats on the committee where 5 people ran, and Desmond got over half the vote. The other 4 people were all within 2 votes of each other at about 40% of the vote. So Tony Gaddotti got appointed as one of the other members of the committee. He was the person who finished in 5th. So whenever Matt Bosley said something that Dane disagreed with, Dane's response was, "You're going against the will of the membership." And anytime we disagreed with Dane's response was, "You're going against the will of the membership." And I bought into that for months until I finally talked to Desmond, who I'd never met before. And Desmond's like, "Oh, no, I agree with you." And I talked to some of the other people who had just given their proxy votes to Dane. And they were like, no, your idea is great. I mean, when they actually came and voted, they voted with for the ideas that I put forward, and not with Dane's, which they had been voting with all along. So Dane does have a radical commitment to democracy, but he will also look for ways to manipulate that democracy when he can. And I hate saying this because he's a fellow math major, there's a lot of ways in which we get along really well. And if he would just not be so openly hostile all the time when disagreeing, then his party would be a much better place. I mean, his heart is in the right place, and I just don't understand sometimes.
Okay, I'm going to bring that to a close. I think we've heard quite enough on this this round of voting. I'd like to go ahead and move to a vote. So Bryce, if you can get the poll up for us, we'll go ahead and move to that. I apologize if there were people that still wanted to chime in, but I think we really do need to move ahead with this. And you are, of course, free to type anything you want into the chat box, because that's, you know, not limited in the same way that speaking is. So if you're interested in discussing with your delegates as the vote goes on with your fellow delegates, you're free to do that. Okay, does everyone see Bryce's link? There's some discussion going on, so you might have to scroll up a little bit to get to the link in the chat box. Also, Skylar, are you able to do this one, or do you need me to input a vote for you?
Oops. Hello, am I unmuted?
Yeah, you're unmuted.
Okay, yeah, I can vote in this one.
Okay, good.
Alert audio now muted. Alert audio now unmuted.
My sincere apologies, y'all. I appear to have voted twice. I am very sorry.
No problem. You're not the first to have done that. I don't know what the issue with Zoyando is, but we'll just subtract that from the total. Okay, I believe there is one vote outstanding. I don't know if there's anyone that we're missing, but there's not going to be a majority, so let's go ahead and go to round 2.
Is there a link for round 2 yet?
No, I don't think Bryce has put it up just yet.
Maybe I missed it.
Sorry, I didn't didn't hear.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Bryce. Yeah, if you would go ahead. Yeah. So everyone has voted. We currently have a tied vote between Michael and Dane, and then 3 votes for Lois. So that's where we're at, and we're going to go ahead and move to round 2.
Alert audio now unmuted.
Yeah, this is where I kind of wish we had ranked choice voting.
Yeah, this would shorten the process. It's true.
Hey, Skylar, it's nice to hear your voice. Sorry, I could have typed that, but just wanted to say that.
I appreciate it.
Skylar, you should turn on your video and people will see your face too. I've met Skylar a couple of times, and he is just awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I didn't
Sorry,
realize. I think,
my internet's going slowly. That's why it's taking so long.
yeah, when I started out this morning, my internet was really slow, and so I guess the video turned itself off automatically.
I just prefer the old skinny picture of me. This was taken right before I got married, and I'm just going to keep it up there. There we go.
Yeah, we're still waiting on a link for round 2. Bryce will have that up in just a minute. I will say one thing for Zoom, even though we're talking about moving away from it, it actually is impressive that we can have 40 people on a call and it go as smoothly as it has for the most part. I hope that if we find an alternative, it will work about as well for that.
Yeah, Patrick. So I think one thing is that some of the other alternatives may have similarly good service, but it's behind a paywall. So for like Cisco or for Google, they may limit bandwidth if you are using it as a free user.
So like everybody has to have a paid subscription to get the full benefits.
Yeah. So
yeah, that would be a major issue.
Yeah. So I think like, yeah, I mean, those are major organizations, right? But then, yeah, it's I think that's why we ran into some of the issues we did.
Yeah. Okay, so Bryce does have the round 2 link up now. So if everybody would go on there and let us know if you are having any problems.
Alert, William Campbell has left the meeting.
But yeah, to Esther Nichols' question, yes, we are paying for Zoom and here with our 40-person call. However, like we run our Sunday service at church using it with like over 100 people chiming in as well on Zoom. So I think the important thing is if we are to do like try to do Google Meet, we do want to do some capacity testing, both with the free using a free account as well as with a paid account, right? So those are just some of the things that we want to be very careful with. So
Vincent brought up Jitsi in the chat. Is anyone familiar with that service?
Alert, audio now on mute.
Never heard of that. Does anybody know what's up with Parler? Somebody suggested on Twitter that we get on it, but I think that's more of a social media.
Yeah, that's a Twitter alternative. I don't know. I don't know. Do you say Parler or Parlay? But yeah, either way, that seems to be the latest thing people are doing to get away from Twitter, especially because they think tweets are getting censored and that kind of thing.
Did we lose William Campbell, by the way? I don't know if he voted or not. I think we might have lost him.
He's here. I don't know what's going on with the vote, but
I thought I heard Skylar's thing say William Campbell has left, so that's why I was just concerned.
yeah, I have a feeling that Parlay is going to have trouble getting the audience. This is the problem with all of the alternatives to Facebook and Twitter, but we'll see what happens. I mean,
but it's not like Gab. It's not like totally.
Yeah, it's not totally taken over by Nazis, at least not yet. So.
all
Do we want to get there before or after it gets taken over by Nazis is the question.
All the votes are in.
Okay, all right. Bryce, would you want to read off the results for us? Or I'll do it. Okay, so the second round of voting, we have 19 votes for Michael Beard, 13 for Dane, and 1 for Lois Kirshen. So with that in mind, Michael Beard is elected to the National Committee. Congratulations to Michael. It is now almost 12:30. I had planned, or that's Central Time. It's almost 1:30. Almost 1:30 Eastern, which is actually all the time that we allotted for this session. So I'm going to allow everybody to take a much-deserved lunch break. We are going to reconvene in an hour and 15 minutes. If you get a chance, our very own Christy Yao is going to be hosting a Whole Life women's panel here in sometime in the next hour. I think it starts in about 30 minutes. So if you want to catch that, that'll be cool. I think there should be a link posted for that. And like I said, we're going to reconvene in an hour and 15 minutes. So that's at 2:45 Eastern time. I guess that'll be 11:45, or is that, am I doing the math right? What is it on the West Coast?
11:45.
Yeah, 11:45 on the West Coast, which I know is a little early for you guys to eat lunch, but hope maybe you can go eat brunch. So thank you all. I'm very glad we were able to do this in the allotted time.
Do we use the same link to come back to this meeting?
You know what? You guys can log out if you're going to, but just in order to avoid the headache of me having to go set up a new link, I'm just going to leave this call open. So everybody can rejoin the same call using the link that I already provided. I don't think there should be an issue with that.
Hey, Patrick. Just for the sake of the recording and how long it is going to take to compress the recording, you may want to break it up into 2 links.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. I will pause the recording so that it's not just sitting here doing nothing for, an hour 45. But I am going to leave the call open.
Okay. I just meant that it's good. It already takes half an hour. It took half an hour for last night's to compress, and you'll have a massive file.
Yes. And by the way, I concur, because I have to compress and then upload my lectures for my classes. And the longer it goes, the more likelihood we have of something going wrong. Not just the time, but the longer lectures I have, I've noticed that sometimes it will corrupt. So it might, for safety reasons, might be wise to go ahead and try to save it. I mean, that's just been my experience.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's good advice. So I'm going to stop the recording now and save it as a separate file, and I'll restart it later. But like I said, we're going to remain on the same call. So everybody, you can log out or not, but just join us at 2:45 Eastern. All right, bye everybody.